Welcome back to Waters Ironworks. Normally we'd be doing a book review this time of the week, but instead we're going to take another look at Anvils in America. We're out at Pioneer Farms where I'm the lead blacksmith. We do a lot of living history out here, and we've got a couple older anvils that I thought we'd take a look at today. The first one we're going to take a look at is this anvil right here. And I'll be honest, until I really had a close look a little earlier today, I was not sure what the manufacturer on this anvil was. We've since cleaned it off, and we're able to see that this is a hay button anvil. I don't know how clearly it's going to show up on the video, but you can see right there, Hay Button Manufacturing Company, Brooklyn, New York, 218 for the weight. But if you couldn't see that, which I couldn't because it was covered in rust, and it was pretty tough to see, we can bust open Postman's book here and look at Appendix A, which is one of the most important parts of the book, the quick identification of major anvil groups and makes. So taking a look through these, right, when was it made? We can take a look at the anvil and the style of anvil, and we can see that it is a modern London pattern-ish style anvil. So that starts narrowing us in on the age. What's it made of? Well, listening to it ring, if we grab a hammer here and don't have anything on it, it's got a pretty good ring to it. We know that this is not going to be a cast iron anvil. This is a real steel anvil. Continuing on down, it says, all right, well, who made this anvil? If we look at Hay Button, it says the shape was modified 3 times. Look for a number 0 to 9 stamped on the waist of the anvil under the horn. Only Hay Button did this. And if we pop this anvil up, after a bit of wire wheeling, which is an important part of the process, we can see, in fact, what looks like a number 4 stamped right here on the horn, or on the waist under the horn, confirming that this is, in fact, a Hay Button anvil. And we can see right down here what looks like a manufacturer serial number. So I think I'm going to look that up. There's another 4 stamped over here. We can also see, looking at this, that we've got these holes that were used during the building up process for these anvils, right? So they would have put rods in here while they were hot in order to move it. One of the other things that we look at is if you look all the way down here on the bottom of the anvil, according to the book, English anvils, European anvils, they're going to have flat bottoms. The fact that this has a indentation here is an indication that this was an American-made anvil. And sure enough, looking more closely, we did find the stamp Hay Button. I've been told that this is actually, it's a pretty unique anvil. It's not one that you see a lot of. We've got an extremely narrow face right here. Actually, if I measure it, we're at 3.5 inches across on the face. And for an anvil this size, that's pretty small. And the horn on this thing is enormous compared to other anvils. So long, thin face, great big horn. What I've always been told is that this is actually an old wheelwright's anvil. So this is an anvil that somebody who's making a lot of wagon wheels is going to be using. They need those long, thin faces, and they need great big horns as they're working those rims into shape. Is that accurate? I think I've got to do a little bit more research to find out for sure. If anybody knows anything about wheelwright's anvils, please comment. I'd love to see it. But this is a great old Hay Button anvil. Absolutely beautiful condition. We use it all the time. So let's go toward the back of the shop. We've got 2 more anvils that we're going to look at, one of which you guys may recognize if you watched some of my previous videos. And that is this anvil right here, which there are a lot of marks on it. This is an anvil that I got in the blacksmithing estate sale #2 video. And you can see it is just chewed up down here. All of these marks are from people testing tools as they make them. They would take it, they'd hammer it in order to make sure that their tool had been hardened and heat treated properly. Looking at this anvil, we can see that this is a wrought iron body on the anvil with a separate steel plate that has been welded onto it. And you can tell that because we're starting to see some swelling here where the steel plate meets the wrought iron body. This is a lot softer steel than this is. As you hammer down, this is going to stay solid, and this may start to bulge out a little bit like it's done. Looking at this side, and if I rotate it around, looking at this side, I can see these marks from tooling, but I couldn't see any other marks on it. I couldn't see a manufacturer name. It's possible that the other side is just so, I'll flip it back around one more time, is so marked up that anything that was there has been just obliterated. But if we turn back to our handy Appendix A and start looking through it, the Peter Wright anvils, English, before 1582, they look like any other old style English anvil. After that, they always have 4 handling holes and are the modern style. This does in fact have the handling holes. You can see them here. And on the back, there's one down there on the base of it as well. I'm not going to pull that off. They also have the top of the feet have a flat running from side to side under the horn and heel. Only a few very early American anvils have these flats and are rare. So these flats right here are pretty indicative of a Peter Wright anvil. It doesn't seem to have the Peter Wright logo anywhere, so it is possible that this is not a Peter Wright anvil, but I think the fact that we've got these flats, it means most likely that this is going to be a Peter Wright anvil. Let's take a look then at this anvil sitting right next to it. Man, I'll be honest, when I started out here, I gave this anvil a lot of hate. Looking at it, the horn on this thing is not the best shape, right? It's a little squat, a little stubby. The plate and the face, it looked to me a lot like a, just a cheap anvil, a Harbor Freight style anvil that was really not any good. We had a student actually come through one of the classes, and he was like, "Oh man, you guys have an Alamo Ironworks anvil. My family used to own Alamo Ironworks. We were the guys down in San Antonio making these anvils." And here at Pioneer Farms, we're in Texas, we're up in Austin, so an anvil that's got a local Texas tie to it, I thought was pretty amazing. I'd never heard of Alamo Ironworks, but if I look up, let me actually look in the index here, Alamo, page 139. We can see, sure enough, Alamo Ironworks. We can see an ad from Alamo Ironworks, a little bit about them. They started in 1878. We've got a history here of all of the different anvils they've got. If we measure this one out, we can actually figure out, I've done it in the past, I don't remember off the top of my head, exactly which stock number anvil this is. And that knowledge, right, it takes this from being an anvil that we kind of look down on when maybe we shouldn't have, we were a little full of ourselves maybe, into something that's got historic ties to Texas and to the, what we're trying to present out here at Pioneer Farms. So this went from a low value anvil that we would have considered probably getting rid of to something that we're very proud of. Now we've got one more anvil. I'm gonna step away for a second. I'm gonna go grab it. It's off to the side and it's not easy to film. I'm gonna bring that out so that we can take a look at it. We're gonna try and figure out what type of anvil it is. It is old, it is pretty beaten up. I have not tried to determine the identification on it. Let's see if we can do that together. So here's the mystery anvil. This thing was a pain to get up here. It is a heavy anvil. And looking at it, we can see a little bit of text here, but it's a little hard to read. If we start going through Appendix A, trying to identify this anvil, we can see a couple things, right? One, we've got the working holes here, so we know that this is an older anvil. It is beat up. My guess is that this is probably a wrought anvil with a steel face on it that has been just abused. If we look at the base of it, unlike that hay button, we've got a flat base. We do have another working hole right there. We don't see a lip along the edge. So right, flat base means we've got an English anvil here. We don't see a lip along the edge of it. That means it's probably not a Peter Wright. Is it a mouse hole? Maybe. Is it a Wilkinson? Hard to say. We know that we've got some text here. It's just hard to read. And so, let's bust out the wire reel. Let's clean this up a little bit and see if we can read it a little better. Interesting. So taking a look at this, we can definitely see it better. I think I read, it definitely says brother he's here, Vulcan Ironworks, or Vulcan Works, Sheffield, England, 125 maybe? 1215, indicating the weight in the old weighing system. This seems to say S-A-N something. S-O-N something brothers. If I flip through the appendix here, I don't see a brothers listed, but it does say Vulcan. We know Vulcan is the manufacturer, so let's take a look at 204. And this is thrilling video, I'm sure. Somebody reading a book. Exciting stuff, but you know, we're trying to figure out stuff about this anvil, trying to understand what's going on with it. So I don't think that this is a Vulcan anvil, right? At least not a Vulcan branded anvil. Looking at Vulcan anvils, let's see if we can show this. Here's some Vulcan anvils. They say Vulcan brand on them, and they've got this arm and hammer motif on it. And I do not see that on here. Vulcan is also, I believe, a US-based company. So, you know, I think that this is an anvil that is going to take, honestly, a little bit more research. I don't know that I'm going to be able to know what it is just off of this one video. What I will do, though, is let's flip this around. Let's wire wheel the other side. I don't see any markings there. But let's just double check. No, I don't see any markings on it there. So, bit of a mystery anvil. If anybody knows what this anvil is, if they recognize the manufacturer based off the writing that we've got here, we'll take a photo of that and flash it up on the screen as well, up close, and can make it out. Please drop a note in the comments. I mean, it looks like it's got all the information we need. We just need to go do a bit of research on this one. This may be an anvil that's less common, since we think it's an English style anvil, less commonly imported into the US. And Anvils in America does not claim to be the be all end all of anvils globally, right? It is anvils that were common in the US, either US made or imported into the US. So we'll do some more research, and we'll do a follow-up video on this anvil when we find out some more information about it and come back to you guys. Again, if you do know about this anvil, save me some research time and drop a note in the comments. A little bit of an unusual Thursday for us, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, seeing kind of the value that Anvils in America gives you, its ability to help you identify anvils and to dive into the history of them so that you know what you've got, and you've got that sense of connection back to all the smiths and the folks involved in making these anvils in the past. Happy forging. Thanks so much.